everyone. Thanks for tuning in to TV 20. I'm Errol Porter, and this is another great episode of Make It in Cleveland. Of course, this is a place where we get to brag about our
Before, Frank, you're up here too. Don't be shy now, brother. Before we begin, I'm going to have
Jeff Slauson here from 19 News Now at the 19 News digital desk. Right now I am showing you a live look at a town hall that is going to be hosted by Mayor Justin Bibb. This town hall, the first, at least public speaking engagement from the mayor following the announcement that the Cleveland Browns will be moving outside of the city and plan to build a new stadium in Brook Park. As we listen in on this, a couple of things here. The city council has confirmed that they will be using the Modell Law when it comes to trying to keep the Browns in the city of Cleveland. Now, for those that are not familiar with the Modell Law, that basically was enacted as a result of former Browns owner Art Modell moving the team out of Cleveland and out of Ohio, exactly, and basically would force a team to stay here unless they do one of two things. One, come to an agreement with the city. Doesn't seem that's going to happen. Or two, have the ability to offer the city the chance to purchase the team before they would actually leave. If that's actually going to happen, not very easy to say. This town hall going to cover a wide range of issues, but you can guarantee that the Browns are going to be one of them. You're seeing that they're introducing people, tons of individuals involved in this. Basically every single department for this town hall is available for any questions that people may have. Pretty good idea. Mayor Justin Bibb is in the middle of your screen there standing up. Let's get to it now. Again, Mayor Justin Bibb hosting a town hall addressing everything about the city, but the first time he's had the chance to speak to the public since the Browns announcement last week. A very weirdly timed announcement, but nonetheless still the first time that Mayor Justin Bibb has had the chance to talk about it.
Good evening, Mary McNamara, Director of Aging.
Let's give these amazing public servants a big round of applause. They do a whole lot of work to move our city forward. I want to get to your questions quick, but I want to make a few opening comments about some great progress we've made as an administration and as a leadership team. First and foremost, as I've often said in every town hall I've had as mayor, that public safety is my #1 priority as the mayor of this great city. And as many of you know, we inherited a whole lot of challenges in public safety when we took office nearly 3 years ago. First and foremost, we were dealing with some major issues around staffing and recruitment. which led to our RISE initiative, raising investment in safety for everyone. And a few key things we focused on in that RISE initiative. First and foremost, boosting police pay by up to 25%. We also increased cadet pay for new cadets by 50%. And we offered new incentives. We can clap for that. Investing in our police department. In addition to that, we have a brand new signing bonus for new cadets. We actually increased the age for folks to join the police department because I had a lot of veterans who wanted to join our safety forces. We also have a fast track promotion as well too for folks who have a college degree to join the ranks of our police department. And because of these investments, not only have we invested in the people side, we've also invested in the technology side. So we have more license plate readers across our city. We've expanded ShotSpotter across the city, and that's also saved lives in terms of violent crime all across the community. We also created the city's first ever crime gun intelligence center. So we're working with the U.S. Attorney, the ATF, state, local, federal law enforcement to curb the flow of illegal guns in our city. Because of those investments, two important progress points I want to talk about. First and foremost, while one homicide is way too many in our city, we've seen material progress in the reduction of homicides in Cleveland, a nearly 30% reduction in homicides year to date. Our homicide solve rate is nearly 70% as well too, because we're getting more technology from ShotSpotter and our crime gun intelligence center to curb down on the illegal flow of guns, but also do a better job of solving these homicide cases in our city. Now, I know we've been seeing some of these street takeovers this summer and this fall. And I've been frankly frustrated and aggravated by these street takeovers because many of these folks don't live in Cleveland. They're coming from Akron and Cincinnati and Sandusky, preying on our streets. And so when we got word of this issue, I instructed Chief Todd to create our own internal street takeover task force. We have detectives across all 5 police districts with our gang unit and NICE unit, working with federal law enforcement and the state Ohio Highway Patrol. We've already made significant arrests in just 2 weeks in terms of holding those accountable for those street takeovers. And we've also coordinated with our local prosecutor and the county prosecutor to hold the full weight of the law on those folks preying on our streets with those street takeovers. Now, one of the other biggest complaints we've heard knocking on doors this summer and this fall is we need more speed tables. Isn't that right? Yeah. Too many folks speeding on our streets. Well, because of the great work of Public Works, Traffic and Engineering, and Callie Mearsman in my office, we have finally installed the first 100 speed tables across all 17 wards across the city, with more work to do, working with City Council and our leadership team at City Hall. The other thing I want to talk about is what we've done to modernize City Hall. One of the biggest complaints we got in the early days of our tenure was when you called City Hall, whether it was the old Mayor's Action Line or our old 311 system, there was no way to track that complaint, right? And now we have technology these days where you can track a package electronically. Well, I'm happy to announce that we have finally launched our brand new 311 call center, which is huge. So any resident, business owner, tourist can call 311, whether it's an illegal dumping site, a pothole, graffiti, groundhogs. Call 311, put your information in, you'll get a ticket, you can track that complaint. You've probably seen advertisements across the city. It's so important that you spread the word about 311. We've also made some minor tweaks in terms of how we do business at City Hall. things like DocuSign, so we can get our contracts out faster and get money on the street faster. We've increased our internal communication sharing internally so that our employees can work better together as well too. And I know the team will have other updates around our modern and responsive City Hall efforts internally as well. The other thing I want to just mention is the work that this community did working with our great Council President, Blaine Griffin. Blaine, stand up and say hello to the audience if you can. Thank you, Council President, for being here. We appreciate it so much. We were faced with a major crisis in this community with the potential closing of the Huntington Buckeye branch. Last year, I believe, the local president of Huntington came to my office and talked about them potentially closing that bank branch. And we know many of the residents in this neighborhood rely on that bank branch. And so we work with the council president, public safety, grassroots leader like Bob Renner, who just walked in, and we rallied together on a community plan to really focus on how we keep that bank branch open. And I'm happy to announce that Huntington has agreed to keep that bank branch open because of your activism and your work. So I know that you have a lot of questions. We hit on a lot of topics, but I wanted to start with those important progress updates in terms of all the hard work we've been doing on your behalf as the great residents of our great city. So with that being said, we'll open up the floor for questions. Okay, please state your name.
My name is Diana.
And we have a mic for you over here too, ma'am. But I'll come to you, because I work for you.
Well, I had the pleasure of meeting you, sir, when you came to NCBA for our job fair.
Yes.
And I worked there at that time. But my question, Mayor, and this is a hard one because I'm a senior citizen. I'm 72. I live at St. Luke's Manor, where we have had 45 cars broken into. And I've called the police, Valentino's office. Okay. I've called the people who own our building. They refuse to answer the phone. We have no security. They come at will. They had 2 last week in the front, 2 in the back. One lady had her windows busted out 8 times in her car. We are seniors. We don't have the resources to come and replace this every time it comes. Now, I know that your officers have done the best they can because I've spoken to them. And I know that they're trying to help us. But we need to put a foot on the people who own that building because they're being irresponsible. They don't even want to meet with us. They're in Philadelphia. They made $114 million in profit. Okay, but you're telling me that you can't put a camera out in that area for us to help us, but you went up on our rents by $150 a month for seniors, which is ridiculous. They went up on my car insurance, double. I've been in that building 11 years, and in 11 years' time, 4 of my vehicles have been damaged. What am I to do? I don't get subsidies. I retired from the insurance company. I know what insurance companies do. I'm asking for help. I'm asking for somebody in your organization to call these people, Penrose Management, and make them held accountable for what they do. That's what I'm asking.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I share your anger and your frustration. We've seen these rings of car thefts and carjackings all across our city, particularly with juveniles. And I know that Chief Todd can talk about our efforts to curb some of this, but first and foremost, we have begun to have kind of a watch list of these rings with our local prosecutor and the county prosecutor to ensure that the judges support us to hold these folks accountable that are doing this. Secondly, we can only do so much in terms of private property. That's why we've encouraged apartment owners and the owners of private parking garages to have cameras and to have private security to support local public law enforcement around carjackings that we see, because our resources, unfortunately, are finite. But our detectives have worked really hard to identify the data and intelligence that we know we can identify the perpetrators of those carjackings that we see. And I want to have Chief Todd talk about our law enforcement efforts around carjackings, and then I want to have Director O'Toole talk about residents first and what we're doing to curb on the flow of these out-of-state predatory and in some cases racist investors who've been preying on our neighborhoods with these out-of-state properties and these out-of-state LLC owners. So Chief Todd and then Director O'Toole.
Okay, I'm going to see if this one works.
Okay, got
I'm just
it.
checking. Can everyone hear me okay? Okay, works. So we have been working on these car break-ins. What we found in law enforcement, a lot of times these are groups of juveniles. They're hitting various neighborhoods throughout the city in these parking lots. They're using tools to quickly break into these vehicles, and they're breaking the windows, going through the vehicles. They're in and out in no time. And we have been successful with making several arrests and identifying core groups that are responsible for numerous break-ins throughout the city. I know that you said you spoke with Commander Valentino. Okay. Well, I will make sure he follows up with the apartment complex itself. It might be beneficial to have a meeting with the residents there and see if we can reach out to the property owners on our behalf as well, you know, at least to voice the concerns. The only other question I have is the lighting beneficial as well? Because I know lighting and cameras are the two big hot points.
I'm glad you asked that, ma'am, because the lighting in the back is not sufficient. They hide in the bushes, and some of the residents in my building, we've instituted a whistle brigade, where if we see anything 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, we blow our whistles to alert our residents that this is going on.
Now, does St. Louis Manor have private security in
No. They don't have security. Our lighting is not sufficient. Okay. And you know, the other night I thwarted another break-in. I blew the whistle loud and I said, "The police is coming for you right now." And I blew the whistle real loud.
We need to hire her.
And you know what happened? They took off running. But I still called to
Absolutely.
let the police know.
Absolutely. Yes, thank you for that, because that's important to call, even because it gets tracked in our system. So then we can see, you know, our data will reflect where the problems are happening. So even if you're not sure that there was a break-in, please always call. But I'll talk with the commander and we'll have him work with the residents there and see, you know, at least for a first step, if we can get some conversations with the management.
Director O'Toole, and then we'll get to the next question.
Sure, I did want to touch on residents first. We worked about 8 months developing a package of legislative reforms for building and housing that City Council passed last February. And since then, we've been launching all of the pieces, and one of them is much more stringent requirements for landlords. They have to have a local agent in charge, and they have to submit great additional documentation than they used to have. They have to be current on their taxes. If they're paying utilities, they have to pay them current. So this is already proving to be very helpful in giving us more leverage against these out-of-state, out-of-the-country, many times, investors. So we know that at least certainly throughout the city, and on the east side in particular, we've seen a dramatic rise in business buyers of even even single-family homes. You know, we're seeing over half of them going to investors, and many of these people are from out of town. So we developed a whole series of tools to deal with it, and it's proving to work quite well. So certainly we want him to keep a secure and safe building for you all, and we will certainly check to see what we can do under the code to address some of the concerns that you have.
So we'll flag it for you. Okay. Can all the residents come up to this microphone and ask your question if you're able? Ms. Burns, I can come to you though.
Thank you, I appreciate that, Jesse. I really feel for your demise. I used to teach at your St. Luke's Manor back in the day of Go for Life class when senior games were in Cleveland. So I understand your problem. I have somewhat of a similar problem. You know, the city of Cleveland has invested a lot of money. I don't know how many of you are familiar with the relocation of the old Woodhill Homes estates and all the things that have been going on around it. Well, I went through a lot, just to say, because that's a long story, but I am in the new townhouses now that are located on Woodland Avenue. And what I'm having is the problem that I've been at the table since the very beginning when HUD was there, advocating for the fact of it's great to have new buildings, isn't it? New place nobody's ever lived in before. But what are you putting in those buildings as far as residents are concerned? And this is where I'm at right now. I love my townhouse, but they're not concerned about who they put next door to you. I understand fully about the discriminatory housing laws. I truly do. But when you move into a new facility, and I'm a senior, and now you're fearful of your life because of what they're putting in your neighbor. We talk about diversity. Okay, now I could use some language that's not appropriate, but going from one extreme to the other, that's not so good, if you follow what I mean. It puts seniors in a very precocious space, fearful of their life, anxiety building up, all sorts of things are starting to happen. And I'm ready to apartment that I have just moved in since June, ready to get some boxes and move right now. So I'm asking the housing people, I'm asking people who are invested, and the city is well invested in this relocation of Woodhill Homes. There's got to be something to be done as far as, like, you can't really pick and choose, but it's something to be done to look at a situation and just who are you putting where. I went through this when I lived at Woodhill. You talk about diversity, hell, we had it there. It was people in the buildings paying $25. It was people paying none. It was people paying almost up to $1,000. So how can you tell me about diversity and I knew it before we even got these relocation? Who are you speaking to? I am an intelligent black woman and I can think. And I want for us, not just for me, but for every senior out here who is put in a situation like that, advocate for yourself, for your safety, for who's moving next to you, and stick together as a community and say, we are not going to have this.
Thank you, Ms. Burns. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you for being here. My name is Kathy. I'm a Larchmere resident, and I'm glad we've started on this talk of housing and the absentee landlords. I have lived next to the residents at Shaker Square for 11 years, going on my 12th year, and it has been a nightmare. I took a walk probably a month ago, and there was a dead rat bloated, like within 3 steps of my house. They leave the dumpsters out empty for days on end in front of my house, which they're not supposed to do. I have gone to try and find management. There isn't any. They have a very dear old man who is often left alone to deal with all of those dumpsters, and their carts don't work, so that's where they have to stay. I've gone through 2 deaths where I've had family from out of town on my front porch, and all we can smell is stench. I've gone through my wedding, and guess what was in front of my house? All those dumpsters. There's like 3 or 4 of them, and they're broken down. I took a walk with my new husband the other day, And they're, you know, all the facades that are falling down on Mayfield, they have one too. They've got a whole section where all the framing around the windows is down on the ground. And that was a shock to me as well. The whole place is crumbling down. I've had neighbors come and tell me who live there, they don't know what they're doing. And I know that they tried to do a shell game and go to the Supreme Court and were told to come back here. So I just want to know what's being done at this point.
I'm going to have Sally and our law director chime in on those legal efforts about those two properties you mentioned specifically. Sally and then Mark.
Thank you. Thank you. We are quite well aware of the troubled buildings along Shaker Square. We've been working very closely with the Morelands Group, a group of tenant organizers, some of them in this room, to address these conditions, and we have been meeting at least monthly, sometimes twice a month on these issues. We also have some legal receivership actions in the corridor. We also know that there's 22 buildings that are currently in foreclosure with the Mendel Steiner properties, so we've been working as a team on that. And if Director or Chief Griffin would like to comment. Here, we'll let you have a seat.
Thank you, Director Martin O'Toole. I am a third-generation Shaker Square resident. I live in the city of Cleveland on Shaker Boulevard. When I love Shaker Square. When I was in high school, I delivered newspapers on Northmoreland. And right now, it is in a situation that we need to do better with. We see absolutely what has happened in the Shaker Square area, and I want to talk a little bit about residents first, because that's important legislation that Director Martin O'Toole helped pass, which allows us to have some teeth, particularly in going after out-of-state landlords. We absolutely need you, though, to report things whenever you see them, and we will go after them aggressively. Great. I want to talk a little bit about receiverships also, because we've brought aggressive receivership actions. And a receivership action is when the city takes control of property away from the landlords, because they clearly are not able to manage them as well. And I want to thank Council President Griffin and Councilwoman Gray, because particularly with the Chetrick properties, they were very important in helping to drive this along with Mayor Bibb. So one of the things that we are trying to do is to at least put the fear into these landlords. So one of the things that we've seen in the Chetrick properties is we haven't gotten control yet, but it's forced them to make the changes that they have to make. On South Moreland, we do have a receivership action that's going forward as well, and so with the residents there, we want to do that also. The key piece, and I think the important piece of the Residents First legislation, is it requires someone local to be personally responsible, because we have these LLCs that are out of state, out of country, where we can't track them down. So one of the things that this administration has done is to make sure there's someone that we can hold liable. So let's talk after this. I want to hear a little bit more about it. And you know, we meet every single week. Every Monday, the Code Enforcement Department, we prosecute the crimes, meets with building and housing to find out what the priorities are. So if we could talk afterwards, we will make sure that you are high on our priority.
And for all the residents here, if you're seeing these problematic properties, please call 311. Let us know what these properties are, because the more data we have, the better case we have to hold these folks accountable in a court of law. Okay? Next question, please. Oh, yes, please. Here. Please, go ahead.
Hi, my name is Katie Capers McKinley, and I am a proud Larchmere resident. Walked over here from my house with my husband. I want to give some feedback on the impact that the canopy system has had. So briefly, we moved here for my husband to go to law school at Case Western. We were looking for something. We didn't know anything about Cleveland, but we were looking for something near Case. I work remotely 100% of the time. Because of Spectrum Internet, we were going to have to leave the city of Cleveland, because I, for so many days, was out of internet access. I had no internet access. I couldn't do my job, and I would have lost my job. But Canopy has been transformative. And so I want to say, just from the bottom of my heart, thank you to any of the staff members who made that possible. I was able to stay in my apartment that I love with my neighbors, many of whom are here, who I really love. So thank you so much for solving this massive problem, because I looked into other internet options, and the next one that was available to me before Canopy came along was going to be $1,000 a month for a satellite. Literally the only available provider was Spectrum. So Mayor, I just want to say thank you, because we would have had to leave Larchmere if we hadn't had that change. So thank you so much for that. So thank you. I want to just give a round of applause for making that. I do have one thing I wanted to put on your radar. So I absolutely love this neighborhood. One thing that has made me scared, I made multiple 911 calls a couple of months ago right outside this building when I saw someone chasing someone else in a car. And both times, 911 hung up on me. So again, I love this neighborhood. I was so excited to be able to stay here. It just makes me worried primarily about the person that was getting chased by the car. I mean, I was far out of the way. But I do want you to know that has happened multiple times. So if someone could look into that, I would appreciate it.
Thanks for bringing that to our attention.
Thank you.
We really appreciate it. Chief Todd, do you want to talk about dispatch 911 and the protocols there so residents know?
So for those who know, our dispatch center is answered initially by another agency and then transferred into our system. So I'd like to hear more from you about when you called. I didn't say, okay, when you called afterwards, if we can follow up. So if there's an issue with the response you're getting from a 911 caller, please don't think it's the end of it. Let me know so I can look into it and follow up on that, because it's important that our residents can reach the police. So if there's an issue, please let me know. I know that we've run into issues with recordings, things like that. Please let me know if there's an issue so we can follow up with you. But I'll talk with you afterwards.
If I can, hello? Can you guys hear me? Okay, there it is. Thanks. Thanks, Chief Todd. That's a great explanation. She explained the 911 system here in the city of Cleveland. And if you're aware as well, just for a bit of information and clarification as well, if you make a 911 call anywhere in the county, and in particular here in Cleveland, it's going to go to the county 911 system, who answers the call, as Chief Todd just articulated. Once it goes there, then it's transferred. That's 911. Then it's transferred to the City of Cleveland Dispatch Center, and then those particular calls are sent to our officers or EMS or fire, whatever the case might be. So it's important to understand that. Also, just for educational purposes as well, you can also call, if you're not able to call 911, you have the time, you can also call our non-emergency numbers, which is 216-621-1234, and it goes directly to our City of Cleveland Dispatch Center as well, just for clarification purposes as well. As Chief Todd stated, we'd like to know if there's issues with our dispatch center, if calls are being dropped, if they're not being responded to, so we can take a look at it and find out what's going on. So thank you for that call, for that information.
Okay, ma'am, you're up.
Hi. Thank you very much. I just wanted to ask about these wooden electric poles that are all over the east side that are falling down. One almost hit my daughter a couple of years ago. It fell right in front of her, like 2 inches away from her, and if you just look on this street, like on MLK, there's who's responsible? Because when I call the illuminating company, they say, well, the city owns the poles. When the city comes out, they say, we don't own that pole. And then there's one other question. I just wanted to know, when will they start the work on Arthur Woods Park? It was supposed to start in September.
All right, so for those two questions, Marty Keene's going to talk about the wooden poles, and then Jamie DeRosa from MoCap's going to talk about Arthur Woods Park. Director.
Thank you, Mayor. Marty Keene, Director of Public Utilities. So there are a lot of wooden poles in this town. Some of them do belong to CPP. So if it's a street light only, it's a CPP pole. Some neighborhoods have both CPP and First Energy. So if you call or let me know, then I'll make sure that we dispatch. A lot of reasons they fall is because people hit them, unfortunately. We average about 5 a weekend. which typically results in power outages on a beautiful day like this. But that's the primary reason that the wood poles fail, is because of vehicular traffic and accidents.
Can we get your
If I get your address, I'll take care of it.
Great.
Thank you.
Jamie?
So your second question was about Arthur Woods Park. We're really happy about the funding for it. First of all, it came from St. Luke's Foundation, Council President, City of Cleveland, and also the Cleveland Guardians Charities. And we just had a pre-construction meeting last week. The contract is signed. The contractor will start in November. If the weather's good, you'll see activity. If not, you know, it'll have to pause over the winter, but it'll be completed in June of 2025. And just to remind everybody what the improvements are, there's going to be a splash pad, which is going to be really nice for cooling in the summertime. There's going to be a walking path with exercise equipment. Recently, we just resurfaced the basketball courts with ARPA funding. That was one of the basketball courts we were able to resurface and restripe. So we're really excited about $350,000 project for Arthur Woods, and it was spearheaded by the community and Council President and the city, and we all worked together to get it put together.
Great. Okay. You're up next, sir. Yeah, this mic right here.
Okay, your mayor.
Speak up into the mic from your brother.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, I said, your mayor.
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right. I've got a peeve with this neighborhood. It's just coincidental that you had your meeting here, but I pass through Larchmere, let's say 3 times at least a week. Okay, I'm a senior retiree. Okay, and I think the traffic department has fallen short with these created park, areas. They created a cement curb and a sidewalk. Okay, now that's a 4-lane. I think 4 lanes, 2 ways. 1 way, 2 lanes, and go in another direction. And if someone goes to pass a car, you've got this concrete barrier with no reflectors on it. I think this is a serious problem. And I know there has had to have been accidents that have occurred as a result of such a narrow space and no reflectors. And just for reference, Cleveland Heights has a lot of construction going on around Lee Road. They usually put down reflective markers, so that people, and that's something that is definitely needed here, okay, on this street, Larchmere. Okay, the other thing that I had is I'm a resident at St. Luke's Manor. Okay, we have a lot of people with gripes. Okay, so one of the biggest problems that my concern is that we had a break-in and a computer was stolen and everybody's information was stolen. Now, because everything is so hush-hush, nobody knows exactly what to do to address this problem. Now, I'm getting emails from far-off lands. I'm saying like cryptocurrency, thank you for your purchase.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I'm just saying, and PayPal, I don't have a PayPal account. Thank you for your purchase. I'm just saying that that hasn't been addressed, and every one of the residents there can probably attribute to that.
So on your second question, the law director, building and housing director, first thing tomorrow morning, we will be reaching out to the management at St. Luke's Manor and requesting a meeting to address these concerns. Right? So you got that. You got my word on that. And then, so your first question, Frank's going to talk about the reflectors. Frank.
Yes, sir. Thank you for your questions. Those new islands were part of the pedestrian safety improvement project, and it was led by the state. We have now been, that project has been turned over to us, and we are going to be working on things like you mentioned, the reflectors, and also the streets division is going to be making some modifications because of the pulling into Larchmere has been tough, and we've heard from many of you about that. So our streets division is going to come and do some concrete work there as well as those reflectors and things of that sort. They should be coming soon.
So stay tuned. Next question.
Thank you, Mayor. As a fairly long-time residents of Shaker Heights, a couple years ago we moved to on Larchmere, and we're fortunate to be
Thank you for coming to Cleveland.
Neighbors of Blaine, and we really like it here. So one thing is a little bit different. One thing, we took a recent trip to see the kids in Portland, went to Seattle and Portland, and stopped in the car, so a number of cities in between. We were so happy to get back to Cleveland and say there's so many good things here. The cost of living, there's just, the weather seems to be getting better, unfortunately, maybe with climate change.
Yeah.
So we think it's a great place to live. Now, maybe it isn't for everybody, but we feel we're very lucky. But the one thing that I really wanted to say tonight is, I just want you to hear from somebody that we personally don't believe in cities and counties and governments spending tax money on sports teams. If you want your own sports team, go do it. You should go pay for it yourself.
Yeah.
A lot of you probably, you know better than I do, but I believe there's been a number of studies that say cities and counties do not get their money back for paying for teams to come here. So I'm happy. I hope they leave, and I'd go help them move if it was me. So I just want to tell you that we're quite happy, and we're really keeping our fingers crossed that you do something with Burke Lakefront Airport.
Yes.
We think if you took, sort of like Chicago or there's other cities have done it, and developed the lakefront so that the people could use it more, this city would be even more wonderful than it already is.
Yeah.
So
Thank you.
do it.
Thank you.
Good luck, and thank you very much.
Well, I'm happy you moved to our great city, and I know Blaine's happy that you're his neighbor as well too. He can get all your complaints instead of me. But look, as you guys know, last Thursday I made it known to our residents and the greater public across Cleveland and Northeast Ohio that the Browns and the Haslam's have made it their option known that they want to move from being downtown on a lakefront to Brook Park. I wish we lived in a world where we didn't have to finance these assets, but I do believe it's a competitive advantage. Having 3 Major League sports teams in the heart of downtown, they drive a tremendous amount of economic impact. They are part of the civic pride of our city. Working with the county and our team, we offered the Browns what I believe was a competitive but responsible deal to renovate the existing stadium, and that would accelerate more development in and around the lakefront. We offered the most money ever in the city's history, while also protecting the general revenue fund of the city to keep our city whole long term. Now, if they do leave, you have my word and my vow that we are going to build one of the best damn lakefronts this country has ever seen. That's the goal. And more to come soon on Burke. More to come soon. Leah.
Good evening, Mayor. Ooh, sorry about that. My question is one that has to do with housing, and it hits close to home for me. So I'm a resident on 115th, married, I have 4 kids, just turned 38 on Sunday. And for folks in my age demographic particularly, who, you know, I came from Shaker, came into Cleveland, put down roots here, want to stay in Buckeye Woodhull a long time. But there's not a lot of opportunities for home ownership for single-family homes and for folks that have kids that want to stay in the city. Yeah. Most of my friends, when they have kids, they move out of the city. So I would love to see or hear what your plans are, particularly whether that's through the Housing Investment Fund or some other things that are actually going to create a movement of families, young families, back into the city to stay.
Yeah, thank you so much for that question, Leah. And I want to chime in, and I also want to have Tom McNair join me up here on stage, who runs economic development on behalf of the city of Cleveland. Look, you're absolutely right. Not only are we trying to make sure that we are an age-friendly city where our seniors can retire and live with dignity and stay in the city of Cleveland, we have to be a more attractive city for the next generation of residents, especially millennials who want to buy a home right now. We are trying to do a couple things to address that. Number one, working with City Council, we passed a legislation to create a brand new housing investment fund with Key Bank and a national nonprofit called LISC. The goal is to raise $100 million in this housing fund to bring online nearly 3,000 more units of affordable and workforce housing in the urban core of the city, largely focused on the east side. Secondly, the council president and I have been meeting with all of our banking partners over the last several months because, quite frankly, they need to do more than their fair share to address some of the lending gaps that we see. And what the data tells us is we have a lot of bankable residents in our city, but those banks aren't getting access to those customers. So next week, I'll be signing 2 MOUs with 2 large banks, hopefully for us to really address some of these lending gaps that we see. And it'll be the first time the city of Cleveland has entered into an MOU with large banking partners in over a decade. Over a decade. So the key question is, how do we tie the city's housing strategy with our local banking partners' community reinvestment strategy so it's a win-win for the banks and a win-win for our residents? The other thing we're exploring with great organizations like Habitat for Humanity is more modular housing in Cleveland. We have a lot of vacant property, as y'all know, east side to west side. How do we prioritize that vacant property and build quick, affordable, modular housing in our city for our seniors and younger homeowners who want to come back to the urban core? Tom, anything you want to add to that? No? Okay, I guess I did okay. Thanks, Tom. Appreciate it. You're up next.
Hello, good evening.
Yes.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Kana Riley. I've been in the ward all my life. I grew up on Hoda Avenue around the corner. It's currently named after my grandmother, Alma Cooper. So I just want to piggyback on everything that everybody has said tonight about what's going on in the community as far as the curbs and even opportunity corridor. Like there's not enough light. We've had more and more accidents, more deaths, more traffic accidents. I recently came back into the community and bought some property on East 83rd Street. So I have 3 houses on East 83rd Street, and it's like it's an Opportunity Express extension.
Yeah.
They go 50 miles an hour, 60 miles an hour.
Yeah.
I mean, they're taking over vacant properties, vacant lots. I hear what you're saying about modular housing in the future. I'm trying to figure out what we're doing because we have more vacant houses and vacant lots than we've ever had before. Things are going up, but we've torn down more than one housing project in the city in one summer. So people are everywhere. It's a bad thing for the homeowners. My sister recently moved back to the community, and she has Airbnbs here up on Larchmere, 122nd Street, and she's losing customers because her whole community has been taken over by people who are renters that are moving in 10 other people. There's nowhere to park. It's getting worse and worse. They're turning the empty fields that Blaine was unwilling to sell to the people or give to the people because you took that program away. The adjacent field program, you put parks and other things, but now they're using them as dumping lots. In one summer, like my street is unbelievable, and it's happening in every community. Over here, and I've been here my whole life, so I hear what we're talking about, plans for the future and modular housing, but we have so many dishoused people, and they're disassociated. We have so many homeless families. They're spending all this money to get rid of Tent City downtown, but we're getting put out because nobody wants to rent from us and our property values are going down, and the people who have businesses, Airbnbs, and run their businesses in the community, we're taking a hit.
Yeah, well, let me tell you what we're doing now.
Right
Not
now.
Only in
That's
the
what
future.
I want to know, like right now, how are you going to help
I
us?
think first...
Because I need some speed bumps on East 83rd, between Woodland and Quincy, I need speed bumps.
Okay.
You got a jail over there that y'all built.
Gotcha.
We got a welfare building down the street. We got a school right here and a rec center.
Let me
and
answer your question.
It is complete chaos. Nobody is seeing that.
Let me answer your question.
Because I need to know what we're going to do about that.
Let me answer your question. Let me answer your question. So one of the things that we did 2 years ago, Director Martin O'Toole, if I'm wrong, was we did a door-to-door property survey analyzing all the vacant property, all the vacant lots we have in the city of Cleveland. That informed our new $50 million site fund that we established several years ago. We've identified 1,000 acres of vacant land. We've already begun to acquire that land, and we're trying to, the city on behalf of a new nonprofit called, you gonna let me answer or you gonna talk?
Yeah, I don't want to.
And the goal of this site fund is to bring companies back to the city so that people can work in our community in the urban core, which will help increase property values. The second thing I want to mention is we are working with our entire integrated development cluster on easier ways for residents to acquire vacant property. If you've been cutting this lot for 10 years, it shouldn't be a whole lot of red tape for you to have access to that property. It's got to be easier for our residents to do that. And we're working around the clock with City Council. I understand that. That's what we understand. It's an issue we have to address. And then I also want to have Bonnie talk about what we're doing with Opportunity Corridor. Now, Opportunity Corridor, well, we will get that address and work as quickly as we can to get you a speed bump on 83rd and Quincy. But I want Bonnie to talk about what we're trying to do with the state in terms of Opportunity Corridor. Bonnie?
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you. Opportunity Corridor has been under the jurisdiction of ODOT from the original construction. They've spent the past probably year and a half trying to final out the job. We're holding them responsible. I myself walked the complete site with ODOT, looking at all the deficiencies that were there, ensuring that grass was being mowed appropriately. They were relying on the contractor that actually constructed the roadway to perform the maintenance. All the trees that were hit, the poles that were knocked down, we're not taking ownership of that project. We're not taking ownership of that project until all those items are done. So we're working closely with ODOT. We're hoping in the next several months that all those items will be taken care of and it will become our maintenance. Once it becomes our maintenance, then actually, it's the Parks Department. It's this new employee right here that will be responsible for maintaining the trees and the road and the grass and that.
Thank you so much for the question. Next question. We're working on that. Thank you so much for your question. I appreciate you. Thank you. All right.
How everybody doing? How you doing, Mayor?
How you doing, brother?
I'm good. I really don't have a question. I just wanted to try to give some insight to the community about what the city is doing to curb the violence. My name is Kareem Smith, and I run the Safety Unit. It's a violence prevention and intervention organization that work in the community. Because of the mayor's neighborhood safety fund, we are able to provide violence prevention and intervention programming to multiple schools in the district, including Jameson, A.J. Rickoff, Citizens Academy, and East Tech, where I do safe passages work at every day. It was just a shooting up there today involving some students, and it's really needed the work that we do. I heard some people come up and speak about the random violence and crime in their communities and the response time from the police department and stuff, and I want to let y'all know my organizations and other organizations like mine that's provided funds from the Neighborhood Safety Fund, like Civilians Against Violence and New Era, we are able to provide community engagement and like neighborhood watch type, community patrols to help y'all and be like extra eyes and ears and an extension for law enforcement. So, in that type of situation where somebody's getting chased by a car, it can be some guys around to catch the license plates or kind of help you figure that out. Just get in contact with us. We on social media. My organization is called the Safety Unit. We on all social media platforms, or just get in contact with the mayor's office and they get with us. But we here to provide our services due to the Neighborhood Safety Fund. I just want to
give this guy a round of applause. Give him a big round of applause. As we often say, Public safety is a group project. I'm gonna say it again. Public safety is a group project. We can't do it alone. The safety director can't do it alone. The chief can't do it alone. The commander can't do it alone. We all have a role to play to keep our community safe. That's why I'm so excited about the first ever safety endowment fund we've created using $10 million we got from President Joe Biden through the American Rescue Plan, putting that money to work and grassroots organizations on the streets, on the blocks that can help us curb down on violent crime. And I believe it's a big reason why we've seen a major reduction in violent crime in the city this year. So congratulations to your hard work. We appreciate you, brother.
And I want to say it is a lot of crime in the city, and the police doing the best they can, but I want to let y'all know, me and my organization, we do have a small army of men and women who's responsible and willing to give the manpower and provide our services to y'all to promote safety.
Thank you, sir. This will be our final question. Come on up. You gonna close us out?
Oh, I feel so special now. Thank you.
Well, you are special.
Hi, everyone. My name is Shanoa Miller. I'm the Government Affairs Manager at Digital C. I just wanted to reflect on a comment that was made earlier about Canopy, about our internet service, and I just also want to highlight the investment from the City of Cleveland, from Mayor Bibb, and also from City Council, and that $20 million investment to connect the entire city of Cleveland with affordable, high-speed internet. One of the questions that I had for you, and of course your cabinet, was the investment on local mom-and-pop shops within the City of Cleveland. I personally hail from the Glenville neighborhood, a rich cultural neighborhood.
Keep going.
A rich cultural neighborhood that has a lot of mom and pop shops. And so one of the things that we pride ourselves on at Digital C at Midtown Tech Hive is that we work with entrepreneurs within the community. So I wanted to know more about the City of Cleveland's initiatives on working with those legacy shops within the City of Cleveland. So
Great.
Thank you so much.
Well, thank you for your work at Digital C. We appreciate it so much. For a quick reminder to folks, because of the great leadership we have with Council President Blaine Griffin and Councilman Brian Casey, we passed $20 million of legislation, again, because of the American Rescue Plan, to invest in Digital C, which is providing affordable, high-speed internet to Clevelanders, right? Because in many parts of our city, they were digitally redlined. And nobody should be going to McDonald's parking lot using Wi-Fi to do their homework, right? That is not how we should be doing business in our city. So thank you for Digital C for your partnership. I really appreciate it. As we know, small and medium-sized businesses are the backbone of our economy, and I want Tom to talk about what we're doing to support small businesses in our city. Tom?
Thank you, Mayor. Tom McNair, Director of Economic Development for the City of Cleveland. I genuinely appreciate that question. So before I joined the administration, I spent the previous 14 years working in Ohio City for the Community Development Corporation there, and actually started in this work doing economic development work at the neighborhood level. So trust me when I say that I care deeply about the small businesses that make up our community, and I agree with the mayor that they are the backbone of the City of Cleveland. It might come as a surprise to some folks, but Department of Economic Development, about 70% of the deals that come through our office are actually small businesses in the City of Cleveland. So we do a lot to support those programs. Our businesses, we have a great program called the Neighborhood Retail Assistance Program that offers low-interest loans of up to $50,000 for small businesses. And we still have to underwrite those, but again, I think that we have a goal of helping people get up and started. We also recently just started, we restructured our department, and we now have what we're calling neighborhood investment managers, right, which is taking the Department of Economic Development out to the neighborhood level. So we share the same regions in the city as our neighborhood planners, but again, those are designed to be out working with CDCs, getting to know small businesses, and really helping to revitalize the commercial corridors that make up our neighborhood. And very excited as a proud Ward 4 resident, also just on the other side of here in between Wards 6 and 4, the Buckeye Road Commercial Corridor. We just worked to pass legislation that is going to invest $3.9 million right around that Huntington Bank branch to help bring back several of the buildings that are along Buckeye there, including many of the storefronts. So again, small businesses are critically important to us and to the administration.
Thanks, Tom. We appreciate it. Now, We have a very important school levy coming up, and I want to have former Councilman Zach Reed educate us on why that school levy is so important for folks in the room. Zach.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening. I don't want to stand in the way of you in the first NBA game tonight, so I'm going to be very brief, okay? Basically, 2 weeks from today, is going to be one of the most important elections in the history of our great nation. And we're going to ask that you start at the top and then go to the bottom of the ballot and vote for issue 49. In 1979, you invested in me.
Sherrod Brown voted for the most conservative immigration bill in decades, and Sherrod worked with Republicans to write the law cracking down on the flow of fentanyl. But Bernie Moreno opposed the bipartisan border bill so he could play politics. Sherrod Brown fights for Ohio. Bernie Moreno's out for himself.
From the chefs in Singapore making thousands of in-flight meals, to the team keeping runways clear for takeoff, to handlers training dogs to detect explosives. There are thousands of people working behind the scenes to keep our flights safe and comfortable.
The work never stops because the planes never stop.
We went around the world to see how they train and prevent delays on roughly 100,000 flights every day. Our first stop is Singapore, where we learn how chefs prepare meals for economy, business, and first-class passengers.
This is Singapore Airlines' biggest catering facility, located within Changi Airport. It's run by the airline's catering partner, SATS. And while SATS does make food for 45 other carriers, Singapore Airlines is by far its biggest customer.
SIA, to be frank, is a very demanding customer.
Anthony works with SATS to develop hundreds of new menus every year, and creating one dish can take 9 to 12 months.
There's different menus flying in different directions, and different cuisine types, Japanese, Chinese, Singaporean, and obviously Western meals.
The airline runs menus from 77 different departure cities. So if you're leaving Singapore, you'll be offered chicken and rice or a hawker soup. If you're leaving New York City, you'll get a smoked trout salad. And of course, the food changes based on where you're sitting on the plane. In first-class suites, passengers have the most options, from caviar and lobster thermidor to beef tenderloin. In premium economy, flyers have just a couple choices, like this nasi kerabu, because the airline cooks it in bigger batches. No matter the cabin, chefs try to include a protein, vegetable, starch, and a sauce in each dish. Before anyone can get to cooking, they need to suit up. They wash their hands thoroughly and step into this air shower.
To remove hair, dust, and anything which may provide opportunity inside the facility for contamination.
SAT's team of over 1,000 workers handles a lot of food.
Easily, one day we can have about 800 to 1,000 menus running.
They usually start cooking meals 24 to 36 hours before a scheduled flight, and it's all broken down into stations.
It's like a restaurant. You have a salad section, you have a dessert section, you have a hot kitchen. This is just on a much larger scale.
In the premium kitchen, they're grilling meat, like this filet mignon, for the first and business class.
Essentially what we're doing is we're cooking the meal about 30–40%.
If they cook the meat all the way through now, it would be really overcooked by the time it got onto the plane. So chefs depend on flight attendants who finish cooking it in the air.
They just apply residual heat of about 150, 160 degrees in our aircraft ovens.
Over in the hot kitchen, cooks handle, well, all the hot food for first, economy, and business class.
Vegetables, pasta, noodles, rice, noodles, hot meals, soups, and sauces.
This is some heavy-duty batch cooking. Chefs boil noodles in giant vats. Tomato sauce gets its own tank and is pumped out into these cooling trays from the bottom. And as with the meat, chefs aren't cooking everything all the way.
So a lot of these are what we call 50, 60% finished.
Even vegetables.
It's a little bit like a pasta. We want it to be al dente. So you can see there it has a little bit of firmness, a little bit of bite. So if we break that, we still get some snap. So as it cools, the meals will continue, or the food will continue to cook until it reaches the core temperature that we need to achieve for food safety.
Every tray along the way gets a tracking label. That way, if there's any issue with food sickness on a flight, the airline can trace it back to the exact batch.
We also want to maintain the integrity and the color of the leaf green. So we cook it in the hottest possible water, 100 degrees. We cook it for the shortest amount of time as possible.
Once the food comes off the heat, it immediately heads down this conveyor belt to the blast chiller. That stops the cooking process in its tracks.
While Bernie Moreno won't stop talking about banning abortion, Sherrod Brown is protecting our rights and fighting to lower our housing costs. Let's show up for our futures and elect a leader doing the work. Vote for Sherrod Brown by November 5th.
Some things, though, are totally cooked through, like these omelets on this rotating table. The eggs come pre-cracked in a liquid mixture. A pump squirts the perfect amount into each pan. Chefs stationed around the table cook, flip, fold, and stack every omelet.
We're producing here 6,000-7,000 omelets per day minimum. So omelets is mostly for the economy kitchen.
Once all the elements are cooked, most of the way through, they head to this room.
So this is what we call casserole assembly for economy meals and also business class and some first class meals.
This is where they pack all the food into the foil containers you might have seen in flight.
Normally from the time they take the meal components from the fridge, within 35-45 minutes, they have to have put the meal into the tray.
Anthony gives chefs photos to show them how each dish is supposed to look. Flight attendants get a similar picture to follow for plating.
Because we have around 6,500-7,000 cabin crew, and there's only one of me, I can't be every day at the training college showing the cabin crew, so we do this for consistency.
One by one, workers pile on starches, sauces, meats, and vegetables. Here's that pasta we saw cooking earlier. They each get a foil topper and then are carted into a holding fridge.
That's where basically the packing team goes a little bit like a supermarket where you pick and mix.
Chefs assemble the desserts in a different room. Today they're making floating islands, a dessert with a meringue suspended in creme anglaise. All these dishes look great on the ground, but there's one big problem. Food can taste different in the air. On some planes, your taste buds are about 30% less sensitive to sweet and salty foods. That's because of the pressure, dryness, and engine sound. In the older 777s and A320s, the cabin is pressurized up to 8,000 feet, so it feels like you're eating lunch on Machu Picchu. And humidity on board can sit as low as 12%, less than some deserts. When you have a dry mouth and a worsened sense of smell, foods can be twice as bland. So historically, that meant airlines loaded on salt for you to even taste the food, sometimes leaving passengers feeling bloated. But in new planes, manufacturers are making conditions on board easier on your body. In the A350s, A380s, and 787 Singapore Airlines flies, cabins are pressurized up to 6,000 feet. So instead of Machu Picchu, it feels like you're eating dinner in Denver. And because new planes are made of more carbon fiber, it's possible to increase humidity to about 24%.
When you have more moisture in the cabin space, your sinuses and your body is not dehydrating as quickly, and your taste and your palate is not as, influenced.
So flyers can taste a lot more these days, making it easier on chefs like Anthony.
There's no additional salt, pepper, no additional salt.
Anthony can use this room to simulate a pressurized cabin and test how food will taste in the sky. And to address that bloating issue, he uses ingredients like
Turmeric reduces swelling in your body, inflammation, right? So you're feeling a lot more comfortable. Ginger is also for sleep and rest and relaxation.
Which leaves just one more hurdle, reheating the food. Flight attendants only have small ovens to work with on board. So how do chefs make sure their food still tastes good? Well, cooking halfway and moving quickly helps. And they avoid dishes that don't travel well.
We try not to do things that are deep fried, for example. Chicken wings, it doesn't stay crispy, and none of us really like to bite into soft French fries.
They also stay away from thin fish, like sea bass.
A fish which is a bit thicker, a cod, a salmon, they stand up much better to, in-flight experience.
After all the meals are assembled, the food finally meets up with the carts you see on board.
So we have here the tray assembly area.
Elevators bring clean trays, cutleries, and dishes upstairs.
The silverware elevator?
Yeah, it's like it's a deluxe ride, for your cutlery.
Chefs work on an assembly line, picking and placing
all the napkins, all the porcelain, the linenware, the knives, forks, everything right through to the salt, pepper shakers and the butter portions.
This is a dinner service for business class.
And then they'll put the appetizer, so the appetizer is always preset on a supper service. They'll put a lid on it, they'll put the dressing on the side, and then it will get packed into the carts.
It's the same process for economy class, just the tableware, like the food, isn't quite as fancy.
That cart is packed with all the meals inside. It has a label tag, it says what flight number it is, what destination, what meal service it should be.
This helps cabin crew know what's inside the carts without having to open them.
If you open it up, that document there will correspond with what meal goes inside. So here we have porcelain, here we have the glassware, and then that will correspond then with the meal types that come in from the meal packing side.
Those carts take a ride on another elevator and will be loaded onto flights usually within an hour before takeoff. Every team along the process has to move extremely fast because all the food has to be cooked, assembled, and eaten in flight within 72 hours.
So we never want to exceed 72 hours in terms of food processing.
If the team goes over that time limit by just an hour,